encourage entrepreneurship. Go try to start a little business. And if it's for-profit, great. If it's nonprofit and you want to solve a problem in the community, go for it. That experience of trying to see how you can add value to solve a problem in your neighborhood or community, that's where magic really happens.
Welcome to Quality Matters, where we speak with experts across industries to see how their perspectives can inform our pursuit of high-quality education for all students. I'm Shaka, and this is Caitlin, and we're happy to be your guides for this limited series.
Like you, Shaka and I are passionate about all students having access to a great education, and quality is a driving force behind our work. But what does quality really mean? In an era where parents can customize their child's education, this question is more important than ever.
During each session, we'll hear from leaders in education, technology, business, sports, and the arts. We hope to apply their insights to our pursuit of a great education in the K-12 space.
Join us on this journey to secure a great education for all children. This is Quality Matters.
All right, Caitlin, we are excited to be back at the Harvard Emerging School Models Conference, and now we get to sit down and talk to Matt Bowman. Matt is the founder of Open Ed. He's really been leading on personalized and digital education around the country for years. And so, Matt, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here today. Thank you.
Well, I want to talk obviously about personalized learning. Now we're in this era when millions of kids can access different models and different modes of education. But let's just start off by getting a little bit of your background and frankly, bring us up to date really quickly. What are you working on now that's got you excited?
Well, it's great to be here today. And yes, this is our 17th year, if you can believe it, Open Ed. My wife and I had 5 kids, and as we were raising them and thought, they're all different, even though they're in the same household. How are they so different from each other? And so we concluded that their education probably should look a little different too. And so we started customizing their education for each one of them, whether it's public or district or charter or magnet or online or private or whatever. So we kind of just started mixing and matching that for our own children and concluded that other parents were probably experiencing the same thing.
Sure.
And so that was really the foundation of Open Ed, was let's figure out a way to help families tailor an education for their kids. And the book I just recently wrote, Open Education, is probably the first kind of alternative education book that doesn't bash the public ed system. I was a public school teacher myself. Okay. 2 of my sons are now public school teachers. My mom was a public school teacher. And we wanted to include them in that conversation. Much of the movement around alternative education kind of said, they're the bad guys, let's get rid of them. And I said, wait a minute, they're an asset in this ecosystem. And so that's really one of the things that has Open Ed a little different from other movements, is public ed is welcome in that conversation. And so we partnered with charters and districts that wanted to personalize education also. There's a lot of desire there. They just don't know how. And so we came in and we're a contractor for districts and charters who wanted to do this. And that's what we've been doing for now 17 years. And it's perfect. We can approach the district and say, hey, we're going to provide teachers, curriculum, and technology to kids. Are you good with that? And they're like, yeah, that's great. Here are our requirements for accountability and compliance, and we fulfill all those. Then we turn to the family and say, what do you need to help your child be successful? And they're like, well, I need X, Y, and Z. We're like, okay, let's pay for that on your behalf. And they're like, you can do that? And we're like, yeah, the district has said, let's, approve resources. We can, technology, curriculum, and teachers. And so the parents just love it. It's just being able to tap into everything that's out there and build an education plan that's customized to your child. So.
I just listened to all of that, and it's thrilling because we talk so much about this idea of every child being different. I taught kindergarten for many years,
nice.
And I had the same reaction. I grew up in a home with lots of siblings, and we were all very different. And this idea that one size fits all in education is nonsense. Yeah. However, it's very clear in a lot of our conversations why people land on that one size fits all, because in many ways it's straightforward, it's wrote, you can, sort of continue.
Efficient,
It's efficient,
scalable.
all of it.
Yep.
It's the Henry Ford quote, people can have whatever color Model T they want as long as it's black.
Yeah, exactly. So I listened to all of that, and it's thrilling. It's so exciting. Kudos to you guys for just identifying the need, and it's personal, which I also love. I think that's really inspiring. And I have to know how it looks when you have all these different moving pieces, these different constituents that you're serving, these different students that are needing different things. Of course, you want all of them to have a certain threshold of an experience. And so what does it look like, from your work standpoint, from your personal standpoint, ensuring that the parents, the students, the schools,
yes.
Every different party is reaching the quality of the product that they deserve, that they're wanting.
Yeah, no, that's our quest. That's our quest every day, right? Is to ensure that the parents have access to the resources and the knowledge on how to choose those resources. We have a great parent support team, teachers that look through all the curriculum, and very experienced teachers can very quickly identify if a child is struggling or how to help them. And here's what we like to say: when a kid comes to us and say, "I don't like math," very common sentence you'll hear from lots of kids.
I hear it in my house from my daughters sometimes.
Our answer to that child is, "Oh, that's the adult fault. It's not that you don't like math. You haven't found the curriculum that clicks with your style of learning math."
Okay.
And as soon as you take the pressure off of that, it's not you, it's me, right? Let's find a curriculum that clicks with your learning style. Mm-hmm. There's dozens or hundreds of ways to teach math. Our teachers are skilled at looking at all the different ways that student is looking at learning, and let's try it. Let's try one for 2 days. You can tell probably in 10 minutes if it's going to click or not. If the child is like, "Oh no, I don't get it," let's switch then. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of being able to tap into everything. Is you can say we just haven't, we like the term "not yet." Mm-hmm. We haven't found yet the curriculum that works for your brain. Mm-hmm. And that just opens up, it takes the blame off the kid, it takes the blame off the parent, and let's just figure out what's going to work for your child on subject area that clicks. Mm-hmm. So that's really fun.
Matt, when you're thinking about what has made for a successful partnership between Open Ed and a district, right? Because as you mentioned, a lot of folks who are working on education reform, whether it's public or private choice, the last thing they want to do is partner with the district. And I know from experience that districts can be very slow. They can be sort of just recalcitrant, right? They don't want to change. It's just status quo. And it's what drives a lot of us to these, other reform pathways. What are the characteristics that need to exist kind of within the district for them to really embrace innovation and kind of pursue like a partnership with somebody like you?
Yeah, it's a couple things. One is you need a visionary superintendent. So it does start at the top. You need someone who sees that maybe education is changing a little bit, and then they're not just counting their years to retirement. They're actually saying, what can I do and make meaningful impact? They're on board with this idea that maybe, I had one superintendent say, "Matt, you've helped me realize that I think we were trying to sell dishwashers to families when they wanted a vacuum cleaner." That was just his basic understanding was we were providing X and they really wanted Y.
Yeah.
So why don't we just give them Y?
Right.
And that was super insightful, right? To have him realize that. So you need a superintendent that gets it. And what's funny, since COVID and even since probably 2023, when this chronic absenteeism, crossed the nation, but it's a result of COVID and people just realizing that they could have autonomy and choice on when they send their kids to school, etc. So it impacted districts' enrollments and numbers and funding. And so that's one of the things that's driving some of our partnerships is the districts we partner with are losing enrollments, or their states are losing enrollments, and they are trying to say they care. They want enrollments back. And so partnering with someone like Open Ed can help them bring their enrollments back, because we go find the families who have left and say, hey, would you come back if we provide X, Y, and Z for you and your family? And that helps the district then keep at least a non-declining enrollment level. And then that always goes to the board. You need that superintendent needs a good relationship with their board to say it's going to look a little different. The students that are going through this program might look a little different, but that's okay. We're in compliance. We fulfill accountability requirements from the state. And so that is really that district leader, that superintendent that wants to do something different, adapt with the changes of time, and avoid losing enrollment just because they're told birth rates are down. That doesn't always just explain the declining enrollments, right? Yeah. So that's some of the characteristics I would say there.
So this idea of a mentality shift, or needing a leader that is ready to make the mentality shift, I'm sure that's not as easy or as smooth as sort of your enthusiasm might have.
We just need visionary leaders.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me add to that. The decline in enrollment is causing more to become visionary leaders.
That's for sure.
So they might not have had that start with, I want to be something different.
Yeah.
It might be compelled to do something different. And that's okay too.
Yep. So just to further that thought, I'm curious how you bring sort of some of these leaders into this new visionary space. Like, what are your methods or tactics for sort of inspiring? I feel inspired listening to your story. So I'm sure there's a lot of that and sort of those personal anecdotes involved. How do you help people make that mentality shift? And are there other challenges in addition to sort of the mentality shift not fully being there that have hindered some of your growth, or have that have posed challenges to your experience?
Yeah, so we have a team of people that go out and meet with superintendents and often look at trends in the state or in their community, and if they're declining and they seem to be someone who wants to make a change, then we'll go contact them. Okay. And so just
like data informed, like, is that how they're
based on news articles, or this district is at decline enrollment, they just hired a new superintendent, that kind of stuff. Is you can identify a district that's ready for something, or a board who's just been they just swapped their whole board out in an election and they want to do something different. It shows that they're wanting to do something different, whereas if it's just the established, it's always been there, it's always the same board, same superintendent, they just blame birth rates as their decline and everyone's happy. That's not probably going to be someone that we're going to target, right? Okay. So target someone who feels like they can feel the pain and see the writing on the wall that there's different options out there, and that they should pursue them. So some other real challenges that happen is that the superintendent has to be confident in his or her network in the state, that they can do something different, because there is kind of this mentality sometimes of, hey, don't change. Let's all if we all just hunker down and say the same thing and do the same thing, none of us will be blamed for not doing anything.
And nobody wants to be the first.
No one wants to be the first. And so that is a hard thing. And so kudos to the superintendents who have partnered with us. They are taking a leap of faith against kind of the group that their peers. Right. Because they are doing something different. And sometimes it's easy to kind of not do that and just stay amongst the crowd. So super proud of these superintendents who are willing to take that reputational risk amongst their peers in the state and do something different that they're seeing that families want. So that is a reality that superintendents and boards have to face.
Fortunately.
Matt, can you now maybe let's shift and talk a little bit about the student experience and maybe even the family experience. So Open Ed, you've got this network of tuition-free online education that's being administered to, how many kids at this point?
50,000 kids.
Yeah, thousands of kids. Okay. How do you make sure that kids are still connected with one another, right? Because something that we hear, this term like rot, the kids are like bed rot, the kids are just laying in their beds and they're kind of on a screen and not part of the real world, not getting interaction. And so how do you think about making sure that kids are still doing well and that they can be the kinds of kids who can engage in real life and sort of look you in the eye and say hello, but are learning in an environment that that may serve them really well online versus being in a big comprehensive high school.
Right. So lots of layers to that answer for sure. So I just love the student experience, and first of all, it's different for every child.
Sure.
Right. So that's where we start. Is what does that and we kind of what we say and reference this in the book a little bit. What are the interests, what are the needs, and what are the resources? So kind of the interest, needs, and resources analysis is a key place to start. Is a lot of parents don't know what their children are interested in. It's a hard thing to uncover because we often overstructure their lives, and so they have no downtime to conclude what they're interested in. So we like to say, hey, detox a little bit, take a couple weeks off or whatever, let them do nothing. And then start observing once they're kind of past the point where they don't have to do anything, what do they gravitate to doing?
Yeah, that's so
Like that.
And just kind of look over their shoulder. What is it that they're asking about, or what are they, trying to figure out? And those are some interests. And if they align with the parent interests, even better, right? Because now you have a double whammy. And so you look at their interests, and then you say, okay, we need to balance some of that with the needs of the family. What are the needs of the family, our routines, our schedules, our, parents working or not working, or job charts or chores, or, you don't have just an open, whatever you're interested in, just do.
Yeah.
Right. You have to balance that with some constraints around the family needs and screen time policies or whatever. Right. And so you kind of mix the interests with the needs. And then you say, what are the resources we have available to accomplish that? And we say, start with free. And just kind of rank all your resources from free to expensive. And then just go down that list as far as you can go. And your family budget is a constraint or whatever. But start with free and go down the list until you can't afford it. And then you can make decisions around that. And if you then involve a program like ours, you can get some extra resources and funding to help you go farther down that list. So it's kind of a good way to just think about. Start with the children's needs, wrap around your family's needs, and then tap into the resources in your community. One of the things that we like to say, though, is that online education is probably a misnomer, because it could be book-based, it could be community education-based, a museum class or a zoo, or, at the planetarium, or ballet or whatever, right? So those aren't online.
Yeah.
So you can crank out some of your online if you want in the mornings for a couple hours, whatever. And then we say, go explore the world. And it's amazing how many groups there are out there, healthy Facebook groups of parents saying, hey, I'm going to be at the zoo this afternoon. Who wants to join us? And that multi-age group experience, too, is something I really advocate for, is kids not being stuck with just one birth year cohort. Right. We think it's more social appropriate to be in multi-age group and interact with them. The last thing I'll say is we also encourage entrepreneurship.
Okay.
That's something that is in my opinion, one of the greatest interdisciplinary curriculum platforms there is go try to start a little business. And if it's for-profit, great. If it's nonprofit and you want to solve a problem in the community, go for it. Because that experience of trying to see how you can add value to solve a problem in your neighborhood or community, that's where magic really happens, because they're starting to see, oh, I might need to learn how to design better because my website doesn't look very good, or I need to write better because my messaging is off a little bit, or I need to do math better because I need to calculate the profitability of this donut I'm trying to sell. Right? So those kinds of natural skills come up so well in entrepreneurship and just solving problems in your community.
There's, through everything that you're sharing, this whole conversation, there is such an emphasis on accountability in lots of different places, but there's this, sometimes I think in the education world or in any of these different sectors, there's this fear of ownership. There's this fear of owning your learning, or owning these decisions, or owning, it's not the child's fault that he doesn't like math. It's us. We need to teach it differently. Like, there's this ownership. You speak with such so much accountability to the issues you're trying to solve, to the people you're trying to serve. I don't really have a question on that, just a note, because I do think there's this fear right now, sometimes around ownership and taking accountability, taking responsibility, because, which I get, on one hand, you don't want to make a decision that's going to affect the education of a child poorly.
Right.
And I understand that. Nobody wants that. We don't want that. We don't endorse that. But there is an element of trying to do something new. And in that process of doing something new and doing it well, you do have to have this strength and this confidence and this ownership that a lot of your programming, even just the breakdown of decision making that you just shared, you had that. Has that always been sort of a pillar for how you and your wife were thinking about this work, or is that sort of just by nature who you guys are?
I don't know, probably a mix of both, but we really think that authentic learning is enjoyable. And sometimes parents say, my kid's not motivated, they're never going to do anything on their own. And we disagree with that premise. We think that if you can find opportunities for the child to be interested and engaged, learning becomes fun. Learning becomes interesting. It doesn't mean it's easy. You want challenges. You want to... one of the research articles I read recently said when we solve problems, something in our brain physically changes. Wow. Like becoming problem solvers is a human experience that actually is self-motivating. And so if we can, kids are just oftentimes bored. Yep. They don't have real problems to solve. The paper problem isn't doing it for their brain. But if they go solve a real problem in a community and someone pays them for it and they start to do that over and over again, that creates a change in their brain and creates this kind of addiction to problem solving. And that's what I think all of us want children to have. Is we have enough problems in our world. Let's use the next generation, have them come up with talented solutions that are informed by their experiences and
equip them to be solved.
And then help them to have the confidence and competence to do that. And that's really exciting around that problem solving. And I found it in my own life. If I'm bored at something, it means I haven't found the problem that's interesting for me to solve. But once you start doing that, everything becomes an exciting challenge. And, my wife's big into puzzles and she does puzzles all the time and I, way more than I can do. And she's like, it's just so fun for me to solve puzzles. Yeah. And that's part of that problem solving that humans have that I think we suppress in traditional, settings sometimes.
Well, I think that's a really helpful way to think about things. And it's a good place to close is to think about, maybe a quality outcome is what's the ability of these students to be problem solvers, right? Self-motivated kind of problem solvers in the world. And turns out there are a lot of problems to solve. And so we're going to need a range of skills and talents and interests. And really appreciate you just coming to Quality Matters and sharing with us. I learned a lot. Your enthusiasm is infectious. And so, thanks for being with us, Matt.
Thanks for having me. I'll just add one thing. Depending on the age of the child, right? You don't want to, sometimes we overwhelm young kids with world problems. Start with problems in your family room.
Sure.
Right? Depend on their age. Start with their family, the neighborhood, the community, then maybe the state, and then maybe the country, and then later the world. Right? So scale it appropriately, but you can solve problems in your own family house first.
I'd love to be able to solve all the problems in my own family first, and then we'll tackle the rest. All right. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Great to be here.
All right, Shaka, back at the Emerging School Models Conference with another super interesting conversation, this time with Matt Bowman of
Open
Ed, which I always love when somebody starts their story and it involves their kids and their spouse, and it's just so personally motivated and inspiring. You just get a whole different sense. You could tell by his tone, his voice, his inflection, like there's just passion behind what he's doing and why he's doing it. And it's contagious. I definitely felt it. He went on to talk about the importance of having individualized education opportunities and experiences for individual students, and in his case, individual kids of his. I think that's the ultimate goal, and I think it's becoming more and more possible. Just before we totally jump in, I think one of the hindrances that to sort of achieving this vision that he set out, is just a lack of shared information to parents. Like, I just don't, I still see pockets all over the country in many different cities that have opportunities, and parents don't know that they have them. That it's just not widely shared enough is one of the hindrances that I see to the vision that Matt shared with us about everybody having this opportunity. He, of course, has tackled many other hindrances and sort of created this solution for lots of families. 15,000 students, I think he said, are participating in his programming. And yeah, he had lots to share and really unique perspectives and anecdotes about who have sort of been his allies in this work. And I'm curious how you felt about some of those conversations, some of those comments.
Yeah, I thought that his answer to the question about, like, what does it take to have a successful partnership with a school district?
Yeah.
I thought that was really helpful because many folks watching, our show have had experience working with districts that have not been positive because districts, especially really large districts, but it doesn't have to be a large district, they're slow to change. They often, they don't embrace new methods or, kind of cutting edge technology, or they buy a bunch of things and they don't really know how to use it. I mean, I'm thinking about, the wave, what was this, maybe like 12 years ago, of Promethean boards, and, shout out to Promethean boards. It's a cool product and it's cool technology, but all of a sudden, so many district schools had these really expensive digital touchscreen boards, and they just used it like a whiteboard. I mean, it was useless. It was such a waste of resources. So he talked about the components that are necessary to work with a platform like OpenEd, which is this personalized online education kind of management system, right? I want to talk to some about that later too, because I think he's trying to challenge our assumptions about what online education looks like and how it's not just in front of a screen. So that was good for me to hear. Maybe we talk about. But what are those components? What are the characteristics of a district? He said a superintendent with vision.
Yeah. And
then he also said, I think you asked him about this, but it seemed like the tail that wags the dog is when they see declining funding, declining revenue streams, because kids are not showing up because the same old status quo product that they're getting is not great. It's not working for them. They stop showing up. Then a district says, hey, we got to do something about this.
Yeah, there's a little fire beneath their feet.
And that's when they get moving. So that was an interesting thing. I guess in my heart of hearts, I'll say, I wish it didn't take,
potential consequences
hurtling towards bankruptcy or insolvency. I wish it didn't take that to start doing something innovative.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to say, hey, whatever it takes, I'm glad you got there.
Yeah, I know he did touch on that though. He talked about this sort of herd mentality. Like, if nobody does anything new and different, then nobody can attack all of us for not doing anything new and different. No. And that's a dangerous mentality.
Yeah.
I wish that we could have pressed him more on, what does it actually look like to shift the perspective of some of these superintendents. I thought it was super fascinating, and I would love to get the behind the scenes look at how they source for new districts. So what articles they're reading, where people are feeling the pressure, feeling the pain.
Like, what's the profile of a district?
Yeah, that's right.
Good district partner.
And how do they find that? Like, are they just scouring local newspapers? Are they scouring, data sets and published numbers? Like, there's a real, they have identified how to find a district that could use their programming and their support. And I think it's really how awesome. And I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of those conversations with the superintendents where they're kind of saying, hey, this is the new way of operating, of doing it.
Yeah.
We are having tremendous success. What is standing in your way? And I would love to hear the honest answer from whoever's sitting on the other side of the table that's sort of saying, we're not ready to go there. We don't want to go there.
Right.
It's not confirmed that that's going to be helpful, and therefore I'm not going to take the risk. To be honest, I think of all of the potential pushbacks, I think I could understand and enough to have sort of a real deep engagement in the conversation if someone responded with, what happens if it fails? Like the pressure of, doing something new and having it immediately affect children, and what happens if it fails? Okay, that is a conversation, that's worth engaging and really parceling out, because no one wants that. So let's run the plays to figure out how to avoid most, and if not all, potential negative outcomes. The responses that I just kind of want to roll my eyes at are like, well, we've never done that before.
That's a terrible reason to not try to do something.
You have never done that before. Perhaps that's why you're in the situation you're currently in. Or, that's going to take a lot of work. Oh, it just like kind of boils my blood. No one said it was going to be easy. So that is not going to be a response that's going to sit well. You tell the parent, it's actually too much work to try and do right by your child.
Well, frankly, you want to know what is also a whole lot of work? Teaching bad content, or teaching content that kids are not interested in. That makes for an awful classroom. Right. If you don't have the engagement there. So, to your point, I mean, I wonder if schools could run sort of small experiments with something like this.
Okay.
Right. I mean, thinking about how do you mitigate the risk of failure. Well, you don't have to roll something like this out to your entire district for the entire school year, right? I mean, I imagine, couldn't you say, hey, we're going to do this, a pilot program, and we're going to run it with one class for a month? I mean, I can imagine doing something like that, right? So that you are doing something new, you're doing it in kind of a controlled environment. And then if that works, you go, all right, let's do this. Let's scale this up.
Totally.
Roll it out to whomever wants to participate. Because again, it's also not going to be for every family. That's something I wonder if you caught this when he talked about how to make this work for families. He said, we look at the interests, the needs, and the resources.
Yeah, I loved that.
I thought that was really cool. Like interest, what are kids really into? Needs of the family, so other family norms and family rules, and then resources. And he said to rank those resources. I thought about, a real resource for families might be that they have other family in town. Right. Grandparents who are able to provide care and to kind of be around, or other family members or neighbors or something, right? Those might be resources that we don't often think about if we were just kind of doing an itemization of what can contribute to the learning environment. But think about those interests, needs, and resources, and then personalizing the learning based on those inputs, I thought is a really cool way to think about instruction.
I agree. The way he identified those three considerations, and even just taking that approach to deciding if this programming is, suitable for their needs, was very on brand with sort of how he approached all of his challenges and his new ideas. It's oriented towards the goal that he has set out to achieve. It's, dripping with accountability and ownership. Like, they just are addressing these things head on, which I really appreciated. I know I mentioned that in the actual conversation, because I don't feel like we see a lot of that right now, in this new space. Like I said, I constantly feel like we are sometimes met more frequently with somebody saying, well, it's someone else is going to have to do it. It's somebody else's responsibility. It's somebody else's fault. Like, there's just a lot of that shifting of responsibility and blame. And through all of Matt's conversation and his approach, there was ownership. There was clear, tangible ways to, acquire what they're achieving. It was just the sense I got was like strong and focused. And that just goes back to where it started. Like for him, he is focused because it's his 5 kids and it's his wife, and it's trying to meet their needs and serve those students best, and then figuring out a way to serve many of the other students. 15,000.
Well, I think one of the things that makes what Open Ed is doing distinct from some other models is that Open Ed is really focused on these district partnerships, as opposed to many of the folks that that we've talked to that are in the non-public space. And so that's an interesting kind of differentiator. Far be it from me to say what is better or worse. I don't even know if better or worse is the right kind of frame or paradigm. It's, in some ways, I'm just glad that there's some options in some public school districts that are beyond the standard conventional brick and mortar model. So I guess I'm glad both things are happening in the non-public space, in the public space. I know there's some models like this in the public charter school space as well. But I would be curious from our audience, like, where are you seeing partnerships between some innovators and district schools? Because I do believe that if district schools want to be competitive and attract families in the next 10 years, I think they're going to have to innovate. Otherwise, they're going to continue to see like declining enrollment. You got to give families a reason to show up. Give kids a reason to show up. And so I'd be curious to know what's happening out there where folks live.
I would be curious to see that, to hear that, to learn more about that as well. So another great episode, another great breakdown, super interesting. We'll see what comes next.
Sounds good.
All
Thanks.
Right.